Good Sunday morning, everybody. I am first to know Chief Meteorologist Casanova Nurse. The 11 a.m. forecast track on Tropical Storm Ian has just been released from the National Hurricane Center, and we are going to let you know, perhaps first, about how the forecast cone has changed. Essentially, fundamentally, not a big swing in any direction with the cone. The trend continues to show some favorability for an eventual west-northwest turn, which it's doing now, and then more northwest and then perhaps north in the next 24 hours. The positioning of the tropical storm, it is still a tropical storm with peak winds 50 miles per hour, a few hundred miles to the southwest of Jamaica, and a little bit longer than that southeast of the Cayman Islands. It is still forecast to make its way over a very warm area of water off of western Cuba near the Isle of Youth, and then into a very similar warm patch across the southeasternmost Gulf of Mexico. Now, they're still in the longer range forecast, just like what we've seen the last few runs since yesterday. There's still a wide amount of variability as far as where the center of Ian can go. And that's something to really pay close attention to and keep in mind, because we're still on the far end of the extended forecast cone. There is at least 200 miles of error being factored into where the center of the system can go. So even though the symbols are pointing into the eastern Big Bend, and yes, there's reason to be concerned about that, because if we're in the middle of the cone, that raises the confidence a little bit of maybe some direct impacts. But it's not the end-all be-all of what will happen by the time we get to this time frame, which again is Thursday, Friday. If we do have impacts, it's going to be during that time. But the impacts will vary quite distinctly, and I mean very distinctly, compared to if the center of Ian moves on this left side of the cone, or if Ian, its center, moves on the right side of this cone. So a landfall in Pensacola can't be ruled out. A landfall near Cape Coral, Fort Myers cannot be ruled out. However, there's still going to be some adjustments in the overall expectations of where Ian is going to go. So again, I reemphasize, this is not something that's locked in, and something that will definitely happen in our region Thursday and Friday. But it's certainly a non-zero chance, and we cannot ignore that reality of the positioning of the forecast cone. So a closer inspection, given how the cone is shaped and where it's oriented right now, this would lead us to believe we would have some direct impacts in the forms of heavier rain. And again, we're looking at a Thursday, Friday time frame. Heavy rain, squally weather, tropical storms, sustained winds would be likely, and perhaps especially along the coast, there can be some gusts of hurricane force winds. Now, one thing that we did not really focus in on a whole lot is it's expected to be pretty strong as a major Category 3 or 4 hurricane when it goes into the southeastern Gulf. But the official projections factor in a few items nearby that will likely weaken the system. And we'll talk about those changes coming up. But that doesn't really change the belief that if this were to come to pass, just like this, we would have these generalized effects. It's still too early to be specific about which part of the Big Bend, which part of South Georgia or the Swanee Valley would get what kind of effects from this storm. So I'm using broad general terms, and that's something that we should at least prepare for, with a higher potential, not a 100% certainty, but a higher potential for heavy rain, squally winds, tropical storm force, sustained winds are possible under that specific scenario. So here's what you need to know about what's happening with it right now. Southeast of the Cayman Islands, getting close to that warm patch of water where it is going to quickly strengthen in a mode called rapid intensification. Waters are very warm, upper level winds are very light. That is the perfect formula for a system like a tropical storm to grow into a hurricane. So that is expected, and that strengthening mode can last upwards of 48 to maybe 60 hours because of the rate of the warmth that the water temperatures are across the western tip of Cuba into the Yucatan Channel, and especially this zone here, Isle of Youth, western Cuba, and into the Florida Straits and north of Key West and the Dry Tortugas. That's where the warmest water in the entire Atlantic Basin is situated. So that storm goes right over that region. It can certainly go into that intensification mode. Overlay the forecast track, and it does go over a good portion of that. The warmest water, based on our analysis, is just outside this zone, but we're only talking a difference of maybe 1 or 2 degrees. Water temperature is 85 to 87, perhaps even 90 in some of those smaller bays and inlets. That is definitely high-octane fuel, as some folks would call it, when it comes to the strengthening mode of a hurricane. So that's why it ramps up so quickly. But then once it gets into the northeastern Gulf, based on this projection, it does tend to weaken. And again, we'll go over those possibilities. But the overall tracks, it seems like that northwesterly turn at least is gradually underway. So it's going to kind of straddle these two lines of possibilities, where it may just go right through the middle, just depending on the atmospheric setup around it and how the center actually starts to congeal and gather around more tightly. And that can certainly dictate a little bit more as far as what kind of path it eventually takes and how that will impact the eventual path into the Gulf. Now, I mentioned the strengthening factors. The warm water is well within reach. It's in that slightly cooler patch right now, but it moves into the northwestern Caribbean and the southeastern Gulf through the Monday-Tuesday time frame. That's where the peak strength is likely to be as it crosses into the southeastern Gulf. But later in the week, we're talking even as soon as Tuesday, upper level winds will start to increase within the north central and northeastern Gulf. Upper level winds induces what's called wind shear. It will kind of shear off the tops of the structure of the hurricane, likely hurricane by then, and that makes the overall circulation less sustainable. So that will interfere with its strengthening mode. It will begin to weaken, but that does not mean it's just going to fall apart and be nothing if it reaches the northeastern Gulf. But that will be a significant factor being considered in its decreasing intensity. Not necessarily weak, but decreasing intensity. So the overall expectation is for it not to be a Category 4 when it approaches the coastline somewhere in the northeastern Gulf range. Cold front coming through our area in about a day or two. We've been talking about this since last week, and if you've been watching us, you know about it already. The front will help to maybe induce that upper level stream, which can help to steer Ian more to the northeast faster. It all depends on that main upper trough, which will be situated to our northeast. If it's strong enough and maybe close enough, it can take up Ian, steer it into the peninsula. That's been some of the thinking, but it's kind of backing away from that belief because the upper flow may be retreating some, and if that retreats, that means there could be more of a northerly move of Ian and then maybe a delayed northeasterly turn. So those are the main factors in determining whether it can be something in the Panhandle, something that comes right into the Big Bend, or perhaps still something along the Nature Coast or the Sun Coast of the state of Florida. So a lot of factors are still to be determined, and we help with that determination by the Hurricane Hunter aircraft, reconnaissance flights that went into the system, circling it, dropping radiosondes, getting the real-time data that goes into the forecast modeling. So there's been a lot of shifts, a lot of disagreement between the various forecast models, and that's why the forecast cone is so wide. With new information being pumped into those calculations in the modeling, that gives us a little more refinement in the overall data quality, and that means we can have a slightly more precise forecast track and even intensification forecast going into the future. So with all that in mind, we've been saying for a few days now, it is definitely wise and prudent to be in a ready mode of preparedness for a tropical system. We certainly encourage all the time to just make sure you are aware. We're in hurricane season, and you don't have to necessarily stress or worry about it all the time. Just remind yourself occasionally when there's nothing nearby. But there is something relatively nearby. So make sure you have the kit that's customized for your home, your needs. Make sure that's refreshed and ready. Monitor the forecast like what you're doing right here in our digital streams, and make sure that you are aware of changes to come. If this forecast cone sticks with us, there's a high likelihood we can have advisories issued, probably not in the next 2 or 3 days. It may be beyond that, but we can have advisories like hurricane or tropical storm watches issued or storm surge watches, and at that point you should be set to put your action plan into motion, know where you're going to be, determine your safest place of shelter. And then once we start to get any kind of impacts, that's when that action should be underway. We're not there yet, still in the ready mode. Make sure that you have what you need for your family in order to perhaps, if it comes down to the need to ride out the system, make sure you have the necessities needed for you to do that. Now, that's the latest on Ian on this Sunday morning. We're going to be all over this storm to make sure you're the first to know about any significant changes or even small-scale changes that may influence a certain outcome or a certain trend in the overall development. The latest satellite loop, still a big field of clouds, not quite gathered together. We look for a almost symmetrical symmetrical circular shape with a nice clear center that you can see through it, the eye. We're not there yet, so it's still in that development mode more than it was a week ago when we were just monitoring the possibilities, but it's starting to get its act together. The cloud coverage is still kind of broken, but give it another 12, 24 hours, and it's very likely we'll see probably a more classic looking hurricane that will start to make a move into the northwestern Caribbean. Now, there's plenty more details that you can get throughout the course of the day. You can follow us online on our social pages. Maybe you're doing that already, watching us on our Facebook page, WTXL Tallahassee. I'm going to be loading that up throughout the day with critical information so you can stay up to date on what's going on. Also, check out my own page, facebook.com/CasanovaNurseWTXL. Also, Twitter, CasanovaWTXL or WTXL First to Know. Those will be pages that we will continue to push out information. Have our apps on your phone. Make sure that you keep your phones charged. Just something to think about in the next few days ahead. We're not going to have a critical situation between now and Wednesday, so you do have plenty of preparedness time. And that's something that you should keep in mind. But just keep on thinking, you know, if this still starts to come our way, we will have to deal with some effects, whether it's just from, you know, heavy rain, wet weather, occasional wind gusts, to something maybe a little more full force. And especially along the coastal zones, we're going to have rougher seas coming in starting Wednesday if this forecast track holds, and I don't see why we wouldn't see the waves over the bay and the Gulf start to respond to any kind of circulation that's in the southwestern Gulf by Monday or Tuesday. So we will see some local effects in marine areas, likely starting on Wednesday. We have many more ways for you to stay in touch with us. We encourage you to do that and encourage you to stay advised and in the know about the developments on the forecast of Tropical Storm Ian. That's it for now. We'll have another update coming up during the 5 o'clock release from the National Hurricane Center. If there's any late-breaking information to pass along to you, we can certainly do that in between those times. But just stay connected, stay in the know. We're going to help you do that here at First to Know Weather. I'm First to Know Chief Meteorologist Casanova Nurse. I wish you a good rest of your Sunday morning and afternoon.